Good evening. Glad you're joining us on this Wednesday night. We're still getting a little bit used to the technology, but maybe we're not too late getting started. And I hope that you have had a great day. And we are hopefully going to have a power cord brought to us. If for some reason that doesn't get done, we may have a little disruption during this getting the power cord because I'm a little low on battery. I'm using Carrie's device here, but glad to be with you tonight and looking forward to talking. We talked last week about Solomon becoming king, and we talked about Solomon's great wisdom. And we have studied together significantly the book of Proverbs and the power of wisdom and the importance of wisdom. And we're going to look tonight at Solomon's writing in Ecclesiastes, where he has lost his way. It's really kind of painful for us to watch Solomon, who last week so unselfishly asked God to bless him with wisdom so that he might rule over God's people well, and then to see that he is really drawn away from God and he struggles with life and with its meaning and with its purpose because he is pulled away from God. And I think this is really a timely lesson as we study from Ecclesiastes, because I think it really speaks to where we are in our culture. We don't have the wisdom or the power or the wealth that Solomon had, but we do live in a time where we are striving to find satisfaction and purpose and enjoyment in lots of entertainment and lots of knowledge. In fact, with the internet, especially with podcasts and Google, there's so much information at our fingertips. It's just overwhelming. And you certainly can't be an authority on everything, but it's hard to even touch the hem of the garment, if you will, on almost any subject. There's so much knowledge available and things that we've learned, and then just the availability. Used to, we could sit down and read a book. I remember my grandmother's, they had the World Book encyclopedias, and we had two sets of encyclopedias when I was growing up. Some salesman had a great day, two different brands, if you will, two different types. And you would go to the encyclopedia and read, and we got the annual updates of the encyclopedia where new information would be shared. And now, those are certainly obsolete. Don't even need to go to the library anymore, although you probably do for some things. But the library really comes to us and so much information. But we see our culture's dissatisfied with all of the information, knowledge maybe, but certainly information that is available to us, and certainly all of the entertainment and pleasure that is available to us, and the wealth that we have. And I know that doesn't apply to everybody, but it does apply to us as a culture. How different things are, just the size of our homes and all of the conveniences that we have. And we talked about before, we got microwaves that make things fast. We've got cars that we can move up and down the road pretty fast, with Sirius XM radio to listen to your favorite talk show or your favorite genre of music. Some of us don't have that, but it's available for many of us. Television with lots of channels with all kinds of entertainment information, all kinds of movies that we can download. Used to, we would go to the movies occasionally. I've always thought they were expensive. Now I really think they're expensive. But then we got where we could go to the video store and get them, and you could get multiples and keep them over the weekend. And then you could get them out of the red box. And now you just download all of that information on your computer or on your television through whatever service that you might have. And so all of this is around us, but yet we see rioting, we see dissatisfaction, we see people really hurting in spite of all this. And that's really what Solomon kind of addresses in Ecclesiastes. So I think it's great that we talk about it. I may read a little more tonight than I normally do, and I don't really apologize for that because most of that's going to be reading scripture, which I think is always a great thing for us to do. But let's start with a prayer together. Dear Father, thank you for the day that you blessed us with. Father, just fill us with your spirit and help us to know that the only true wisdom, the only true purpose, the only true satisfaction is found in you, because you are the giver of every good and perfect thing. You are the blesser. You want what's best for us. Father, you designed us and know where satisfaction can be found, where peace and comfort and abundant living is. And we're so thankful to you for that. Father, I pray for those who are sick. I'm thankful for those who've had surgery this week that are doing better. But I know there are those who are still struggling. I pray your blessing on them. Be with our nation, with our community. Father, be with all the members of our church. Bless us all. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to read a country western song as we begin that I think actually has application. I'm not just sharing a song with you because I like it, although I do like it, but that's not the reason. But as I was reading through Ecclesiastes, this song really came to mind. Many folks have recorded it. You may know it best with Johnny Cash singing it. There actually is a Grammy award-winning group that has the name Riders in the Sky, but it's the song Ghost Riders in the Sky, and I want to read you the words. An old cowboy went riding out one dark and windy day. Upon a ridge he rested as he went along his way, when all at once a mighty herd of red-eyed cows he saw, plowing through the ragged skies and up the cloudy draw. Their brands were still on fire and their hooves were made of steel. Their horns were black and shiny, and their hot breath he could feel. A bolt of fear went through him as they thundered through the sky, for he saw the riders coming hard, and he heard their mournful cry. Yippee-yi-yo, yippee-yi-yay, ghost riders in the sky. Their faces gaunt, their eyes were blurred, their shirts all soaked with sweat. He's riding hard to catch that herd, but he ain't caught them yet, because they've got to ride forever in that range up in the sky on horses snorting fire. As they ride on, hear their cry. As the riders loped on by him, he heard one call his name. If you want to save your soul from hell or riding on our range, then cowboy, change your ways today, or with us you will ride, trying to catch the devil's herd across these endless skies. It's a great song. It's a little eerie, but the point is, what is cowboy hell, if you will? It is forever riding in the sky, unable to attain one's goal, always chasing this herd in the endless skies, never able to catch them, never able to corral them, never able to herd them, just to incessantly chase them. And I don't think that's really different than what Solomon's talking about, and why he finds such frustration that in all of the things that he had tried outside of God, it was endless. It never brought satisfaction. It was just one more valley that those cows kept staying ahead and escaping, never able to find rest, never able to find achievement, never able to find peace, never able to find purpose. I want to read from the first couple of chapters of Ecclesiastes. These are the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. And so Ecclesiastes never says by name that Solomon wrote it. But again, who's the son of David, who's king in Jerusalem? It's Solomon. Meaningless, says the teacher, or vanity, you may have heard. What is that word he's using, meaningless or vanity? It's really a term that means breath. To take one's breath, that just like a breath, just like a breath. While a breath is important, we take many breaths a minute. They come and they go, and that's Solomon's frustration. That just like a breath, it's gone in just a moment. It's fleeting, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What does a man gain from all of his labor in which he toils under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets, and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the north and to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All the streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place that streams come from, they will return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything to which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. There is no remembrance of men of old, and even those who are yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow. Now, that's not, but his frustration is all the work of man, all that we do, all that we try to achieve, even great achievements. Now, Solomon is a great achiever, builds the great temple, right? Builds this temple that is an architectural marvel. Not only is it of service to God, it's an architectural marvel. It stands out. It's the most noticeable, but he realizes it's even got a limited time. And it takes 13 years for him to build his house. You know, sometimes we're stepping, we have a starter home. Maybe we start an apartment. Maybe we start in a mobile home and we have a starter home and we build up from those. But Solomon spends 13 years building his house. And he says, I really find no satisfaction. He said, people aren't going to remember. I think about schools, especially when I drive around. We have Hobgood School in the city of Murfreesboro, and I remember who Baxter Hobgood was. But Reeves Rogers, I'm not sure who that was named after. I think that hasn't been that long ago, but I've forgotten. I don't really know the story of who these folks are. Some of those names I still remember because they were in my lifetime or their families were, but another generation won't have a clue as to who those people are. We're all familiar with Murphy Center, but I guarantee you, if I asked my kid who Charles M. Bubber Murphy was, they got no idea. Johnny Red Floyd, they don't know. Middle Tennessee Christian School, the old gym is the A.N. Miller Memorial Gymnasium. Don't remember Mr. Miller. Now, I remember the Robertson Hall, but how many folks will continue to remember those individuals? And Solomon says, it's frustrating. No matter what great things they accomplish, you can build buildings, have buildings named after you. Nobody is going to remember in the future. And all of the work that you do, it's been done before, and it will be done again. It's not of all of that great of significance. So he is frustrated by that. If y'all want to send me messages on my phone, it's best, but I can see the little message on the computer, and I will try to answer those. And Dan, thank you. I agree very much. I'm glad y'all are watching. Now, so all of this work is meaningless. I think in the I'm trying to think of the show now, the Crocodile Dundee. You remember he talks about the owning this land, and the girl said, "Why didn't you tell me you own all of this land?" He said, "Well, really, who owns this land is irrelevant." He said, "See those rocks?" He said, "They were there thousands of years ago. They'll be there thousands of years from now." He says, our discussing who owns this land is like two fleas arguing over who owns the dog. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I think that's what Solomon's saying is things will continue on. Even though I've tried and I've worked and I've done great things, it really won't be remembered. And he's frustrated by that. And, that occurs to lots of folks today. I think what real lasting purpose, and without God and without knowing who God is and what our long-term purpose and destiny is, it's so easy to get frustrated. I'm going to continue reading. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under heaven. What a heavy burden God has laid on me. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is twisted cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. What he's really saying here is, as hard as we try and all the work we do in this world in its fallen condition without God, we're never going to solve all the problems. We're never going to make everything right. I thought to myself, look, I have grown and increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also the madness and folly. But I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, and more knowledge, the more grief. So he's frustrated, even with all the knowledge that he has, that he's not able to change everything. And that while we can make some difference in some people's lives, long lasting, it's not as significant as we would like for it to be. And so when our purpose comes about ourselves and our legacy and what we're going to do to be remembered, he says, there really isn't much. And even with all your learning, there's just a limit to it. So knowledge, while it's not always a bad thing, in and of itself doesn't satisfy and it doesn't solve all the problems. And I think that's a great frustration in our culture today, in our world, not just our culture, as we become very dependent on human beings making all the difference. We're going to make all the difference. We're going to make all the change. We're going to make the right calls when it comes to environment, when it comes to society, when it comes to solving all the problems. And as we solve one problem, which we're able to do, and we shouldn't try not to, like when it comes to diseases, I'm glad that we're able to find cures for some and continue to work on those. But we never get where there's not something that makes us sick, not something that we're going to die from. And so we get frustrated. We ought to be beyond this. You know, there's a frustration. What are you talking about? In 2020, we're teaching people how to wash their hands? Really? That's what's going on. We feel like we should have attained something higher than this. And Solomon says, I get that. But with all of our learning and all of our knowledge, nothing under the sun changes. What's been done has been done before, and it'll have to be done again. Chapter 2, I thought to my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. So he said, knowledge itself, I couldn't find satisfaction in being the smartest guy around. So I'm going to try pleasure. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is foolish. And what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. Now, let's talk about this for a moment. So he's tried pleasure in all kinds of ways. And he talks about wine, that he had tried alcohol. Then that bring some pleasure? And he says, but my mind continued to guide me with wisdom. And so as we say that, there seems to be this discussion that he never became an alcoholic. It did not take over him, because we know the pain that addiction brings. And so it seems like I tried this and I didn't become an addict, but it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't satisfying. Entertainment. And I mean, he was able to entertain himself in almost every way we can imagine being entertained. He's able to entertain himself. But he says, this doesn't bring satisfaction to me either. This doesn't satisfy me. Everything that I try, he said, I undertook great projects. So he tries to accomplish great things. I built houses for myself. I planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves. There were herds and flocks. I had owned herds and flocks more than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasure of kings and provinces. I acquired men and women singers and a harem as well, the delights of the heart of man. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me, and all my wisdom stayed with me. I built great things. I had the greatest of entertainment. I was able to hire singers, and you just take whoever you think the greatest singer might be, that you could hire them, and Let me just see, excuse me, holler at Carrie. Carrie, you could hire the greatest singers of our culture, whoever you enjoy. You could just hire them to be there to entertain you every day. You didn't have to say, Siri, bring up the Statler Brothers. They'd just be there to sing. And he said, I still didn't find joy in that. He had a harem. He had wives and girlfriends and all kinds of things, all the things that our culture would say should satisfy us, and it didn't. And it didn't. So he said, I denied myself nothing. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to turn on, see if I can get this to charge. I apologize. Still not sure that I'm charging. I don't know how to get this charged, so I'm going to have to get out. So he finds, I denied myself nothing. I tried everything. Nothing seemed to work. So all of the things that the world seems to offer doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we lose sight of purpose. Because the New Testament, the scripture will say that earthly wisdom is futile, and that there is a spiritual wisdom that brings about truth, and that the truth of God actually frustrates those with earthly wisdom. They just don't understand it. That Jesus himself was a stumbling block to Jews because he wasn't the king they envisioned, and this whole thought of sacrifice of a god was silly to Greeks. They didn't understand it. It didn't fit in. But when we understand that God is the provider, is the source of all of our blessings, when we understand that God has a plan for us, that this life is not all there is, and God has a perfect place for us, and that God will satisfy all of our needs, and so that our loving God and loving others serves the greater purpose. That's what God has called us to. Then life has meaning. But Solomon was said, in trying to achieve knowledge, trying to achieve greatness in our careers, trying to have nicer houses and acquire more things, trying to have greater entertainment, our eyes never get enough of seeing, our ears never get enough. The sea never fills itself. It even though the streams always run there, it's not charging. Babe, try turning it on there.
There. Got a lightning bolt?
No. All right. Oh, I'm going to draw it in. I can't get a lightning bolt. That when you're 54, getting a lightning bolt is a hard thing to do. Although at the courthouse today, there was a lightning bolt close. It was close. And it was too close to me. I don't know where it hit, but it was too close to me. But what Solomon is saying is there is a need for godly wisdom, and that the things of this world, the things that this world chases and says, if I can just get a little more of this, if I can get a little more of this, everything will be okay. Solomon said, I got more than a little bit. I got a lot of it. I got all of it that you could get. And it didn't satisfy me. It didn't satisfy my needs or my longings. And I have lightning. Lightning has struck in Porterfield. So, sorry you thought I was going to be through. I'm still here. But I got everything. I got everything that you could want. Everything you could want. And he says, it's meaningless. Solomon was left empty. And I think he finds it so frustrating. Why am I empty? This should have fulfilled me. I think culturally, and many of us struggle, even as Christians, that I thought I would be happy. Have you heard of being middle-aged crazy? We don't talk about it much. Used to sing songs about it. Again, I love songs, and I think they really do speak to culture a lot. But the thought of coming to some point in life where you realize, A, it's passing really fast, and B, I'm not making the significance that I thought I might make. And C, as I begin to acquire things, they're not bringing the satisfaction that I thought they'd bring. I thought I would be happier. I thought if I could get this, I would be happier. And there's still a lot of folks, John Denver, years ago, I just keep thinking of the music, saying, a lot of, people driving in a black limousine and a lot of sad people thinking that's a mighty king. But son, let me tell you exactly what I mean. Thank God I'm a country boy. And this thought that I don't think that would bring happiness. And a lot of people think if I could get there, if I could ride in that limousine, I could be happy. But those folks riding in the limousine are looking for something else. What about Haman? You remember Haman in the story of Esther? He has done well, but he's still not happy. Mordecai still bothers him. He's still not satisfied. It's not enough. Solomon says, the things of this world are not enough. The things that Satan offers us are not enough. They always leave you hungry. They always leave you thirsty. They always leave you dissatisfied. They always leave you dissatisfied. So what matters? Serving God and keeping his commandments. That's what matters. That's all that matters. At the end of the day, that's all that matters, is loving God and keeping his commandments, because that's the whole duty of man. Solomon comes to that conclusion. All of these things don't matter. And so we spend so much time, so much energy chasing these things, hoping to find happiness, whatever that is, satisfaction, some peace, some comfort. And Solomon says that's not where it's going to be found. That's not where it's going to be found. It is a chase, like chasing the devil's herd. It's a chase where you can never catch the herd. You can never catch the herd. But when we're still and we listen to God and we trust him and we walk in his ways, then we'll have life in abundance. That's what Jesus said, I came to give you. I said, not only that you'll have life, not only that you'll be alive, but that you will have life in abundance. But Jesus, you talk about a cross, I understand, but I'm going to give you abundant life. I'm going to give you meaning and purpose. And I have gone to prepare a place for you where the being, the creator, the loving God who designed you and made you is making a place for you where everything will be satisfied, where you can come and drink. What's he tell the woman at Sychar, the woman at the well? He said, I'll give you water so you won't thirst anymore. So you won't be thirsty anymore. I'll give you bread where you won't be hungry anymore, where your true needs and longings and desires are satisfied. Satan told Adam and Eve, he said, no, eat from the tree. It's okay. God really doesn't want the best for you. But if you eat from this, you'll know good and evil. You'll be like God. It will be fulfilling. And it was devastating. And what Satan tells us today is the same. It looks fulfilling, but it's devastating. Solomon, this man of great wisdom who should have known better, but he had enough power and wealth to go out and try everything. And he said, it's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling. Serving God, loving God, and keeping his commandments. That's the purpose. That's the whole duty. That's where we find satisfaction. When we think about others, when we're loving God and loving others, and we're serving, because Jesus said, who's going to be greatest in the kingdom? Who's the greatest in the kingdom? He who's your servant. Jesus said, none of you are greater than me, your master, yet I wash feet. You wash one another's feet. He understood that to have a life that's meaningful and what God has called us to and that has purpose is about serving others. It's about serving others, because when I focus on me and try to serve all my needs, I just get hungrier and thirstier. The more I think I'm heading where I need to go, the further away I get. But when I surrender to God and where I'm about his business, then God gives me that nourishment and that drink that satisfies. We find satisfaction in serving God. And I think that's what Solomon's talking about. But it goes against the wisdom of the world. It really goes against our nature. But that's where we have to trust in God. All is vanity, says the preacher. All is vanity. All of my work. And here's what's interesting. Solomon would say, I do all this work, and then the next generation, he might be an idiot, and he gets all that I've worked for. Now, what sense does that make? Now, I'm not going to talk about my kids or your grandkids, but the thought was the next generation comes. What does it really help them? Have they earned it? Do they deserve it? He said, I've done all of this. Nobody remembers I've done it, and it really doesn't have lasting benefit. But what has lasting benefit? What has lasting benefit? Jesus says, the scripture says, judgment will come, and what we've built with will be judged. We built with straw or even concrete and brick, all of those things, it'll be burned up. But when we build those things that are right and godly and of God's service, they last in this world and in the world to come. That's really something that matters. When we bring somebody to Jesus, when we teach them about God, when we live lives of godliness and prepare ourselves and our family and those around us for the new heaven and the new earth, that really matters. That makes a lasting difference. And that brings satisfaction, not disappointment. Following the ways of the world is just vanity. It's just fleeting. There's no satisfaction. It's cotton candy. It's sweet only for a moment. And then it's just sticky and gone, and there's a mess to clean up. But serving God brings about real satisfaction and purpose. That's what the wise man Solomon figured out. He had to try it. He had to try it, but we should learn from him. We should learn from him that the whole purpose of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. Hope you have a great rest of the week.